So, the biggest question in the world right now is whether or not the coronavirus is that big of a problem. And now that question has creeped into the domestic box office conversation. Greyson Talks Box-Office, Onward's opening weekend. And now, the question everyone is asking is that if the coronavirus hurt Onward's opening weekend box office, or was it the movie's own fault? And my verdict on this is that it was just a mixed bag. See, for anyone that was already on the fence about going to see Onward, the coronavirus was just the push they needed to not go to the theater. Which is truly sad because I went to go see Onward earlier today and I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic movie. And if it weren't for the coronavirus, Onward would have probably made it in the mid 40s and maybe even the 50s at the global box office. Well, not global, but domestic. But due to the fact that Onward also has a lot of problems with the movie itself, those people that were already on the fence about Onward just opted not to go. So, yes, the coronavirus has affected the global box office in a major way. And a lot of Middle Eastern countries have been affected. A lot of countries have shut down the theaters and put them all on lockdown, which explains these horrific numbers globally and foreign for Onward. So, Onward and a couple other upcoming movies are in really bad shape because they have nowhere else to go and they can't go to China, which is like one of the biggest helpers when it comes to the box office, and it gets most movies to like $1 billion because like a lot of China's like movies or movie release dates have been postponed, which will create a huge backlog of movies and it will just flood the market. But let's get down to business because this is an interesting story about Onward's domestic box office. So what happened was is that usually with Disney and Pixar movies, especially their animated movies, is that they attract a large audience, but most of them are like adult viewers, which helps them a lot. But with this movie, almost everyone that was there was like kids with like their parents or just families, and that's a huge problem. But but they could rest assured that it actually like performed along with other kids films. But Pixar doesn't really like to be known as, well, a kids film, and Pixar doesn't like to be called a kids like studio or kids movie maker because they make more darker and deeper themes in their movies, which has been a huge draw for parents and adults for a while. So yeah, this movie had a couple problems, and one of them is basically just because looking at the cover, it kind of looks like a very bad DreamWorks movie, which Pixar has strived to make sure that they aren't. And another reason is because Disney is basically doing their constant queer baiting tactic with Lena Wraith, and it literally they just innuendoed it in like for one line, and that was enough to get like a couple countries to ban like the entire movie in general over one line, and people in America even have like just boycotted the film. And probably another reason Onward bombed so hard at the box office is because of Chris Pratt himself. And the reason Chris Pratt is like the one of the main problems of this is because he kind of positioned himself in the wrong place in the wrong time. Because he married into a very religious and a very Republican family because he married like Arnold Schwarzenegger's daughter, and their church is super religious and have very very odd views on people. And Chris Pratt has even started to push his like religion and his religious and Republican beliefs on other people that might not be like willing to listen, which kind of has deterred his audience and his fan base, but given him a new, smaller audience and a nicher fan base. And even Chris Pratt's newer audience didn't even want to see this movie because, again, he has a more religious and Republican fan base. And alongside with the queer baiting, they just did not want to see the movie and they were strongly boycotting it. So, yeah, but this hasn't so far has hurt the Jurassic World franchise or the Marvel franchise. But it's something James Gunn does need to look out for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So that's my analysis of Onward's opening weekend. What did you guys think? Share your thoughts down below and don't forget to subscribe to Greyson Talks Everything.